Hello, it's Christmas everyone, and now I get to talk about the new Sonic 3 movie that I just watched. Spoiler warning, because I'm going to spoil quite a lot of the movie and tell you how I feel. Honestly, I had so much fun watching it. There are small issues, but the good overweighs the bad. Starting off with Shadow, he looks amazing in this movie, ultimate I'd say. You can tell that he's oozing with style and aura at the same time. Really fun to look at, I just love the colours. Keanu Reeves did a great job of voicing the character. Honestly, he was a good pick, but I would have rather casted Jason Griffith for the fans, I guess, but Keanu Reeves will do. I'm gonna nitpick, I do wish he talked a little bit more like Shadow in the games though. Job of nailing Shadow's character overall. However, the moment where Sonic does try to confront him could have been a little bit better, and I wish it did go out the same way it did in the video game and the anime. Honestly wish they properly adapted that part of their games where they try to reason with Shadow. Instead of having Amy or Chris, you have Sonic or Tails. I specifically remember the scene where Shadow saves Chris and then it starts to affect the plot. I wish something like that happened in the movie where he does save Tails at one point. If Tails was like suffering or was going to burn or something, and then he saves him even though he was still on the wrong side at the time. There were literally 0 Fs given about Shadow using a gun. They did not hold back, which I actually prefer and actually respect for them trying to go this route. His character arc throughout the movie is very entertaining and very satisfying to watch when you get to his redemption, kind of like Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Gerald Robotnik was a fun character throughout the movie. I like how they pay homage to him and Eggman sharing the same voice actor, since you get Jim Carrey to play both, which is a plus for me. Personally not a fan of him being the front center antagonist, but I did like seeing him interact with Jim Carrey. Just that in the original games, Gunn actually ends up executing Robotnik. I understand it changing that, but I hate how they cut out BioLizard. Would have been a good final boss fight to see. I feel like we don't get much of his earlier side when he was still good. Show the contrast between how he is back then and how he is now. Overall, I still think he's done really well. I feel like how they adapted his message throughout the whole world. They forget to mention about how Maria has an illness, which they don't address completely. One of the reasons why Robotnik experimented on Shadow so he could create a cure for Maria. And the Ark was not made just to be a weapon. People actually lived there. And Maria had an illness where she couldn't be on Earth. Hey, I understand changing that, but I at least would have liked her to have some kind of illness, even if it's not 100% accurate. Maria sacrificing herself to save Shadow is cut. Understand why though. Although I do like the emotional moments she has with Shadow though, which are important though. Maria was okay/good throughout the movie. I do wish she looked and acted a little bit more closer to the games. Christian Ritter's character was kind of a meh character, like a whatever. I'd like to see how she was doing after, like what was going on with Gunn at the end of the movie. Let's talk about the movie's storyline, how it did a good job adapting Sonic Adventure 2 and how well it succeeded expectations for the most part. This movie got to be my favorite out of all 3 of them. Also Shadow breaking out his containment tube, starts attacking all the guards and then fleeing the base. Our main trio who's doing a race, which turns out to be Sonic's celebration birthday. It's a very fitting and fun surprise. I think it's very fitting to bring back the underground bunker Sonic was in the first movie here, and having him show it to Tom. After that, Gunn recruits them to go to Tokyo to fight Shadow. Honestly, this whole section is one of my favorite sections in the movie, not just because it takes place in Japan, because we don't have to wait for any of this to happen. Everything about this scene, especially with the lighting and all the music scores and the Akira bike poses, and him using a gun as well. It's just a really nice encounter. So on a side note, before I watched this movie, I just finished the Gantz anime and watched its anime movie Gantz O. Made me think about the idea of a crossover between Gantz and Sonic 3, where Shadow's in Osaka, where the Gantz team have to fight him. But overall, everything about the scene is just genius! I like the Chow-inspired restaurant they have here. And yeah, I bet Knuckles would be Charmander if Tails was Detective Pikachu. Talk with the general about Shadow's past, about how he came from space, and how they experimented on him, but I'm okay with that change. I'm so glad that it's not as worse as how Homelander was treated in The Boys. Bots come in and Dr. Eggman's coffee guy shows up and saves them. The real gripe with this is that the general dies, and I don't think they should kill him off like this early. Could have easily done a fake out and then reveal that he's put in a coma. It would be a callback to how 4 Kids censored death I feel like the movie is strongest at its near beginning and its near end. And I feel like the middle parts are lacking just a little bit. I wish there was like more events that led up to the final battle though. With Eggman getting recruited by Sonic, could deal with a little less fat jokes, but I'm okay with it. It's still a good scene though, to try and have them work together till he Judases them. This is a good setup for his redemption arc. Anyway, they still go to the secret base where Shadow ends up meeting Gerald Robotnik again. I wish this section showed Shadow a little bit more, and especially them racing each other in some of the ground race tracks, I guess, like in the games, but different. It's nice to see half of Shadow's backstory here about him and Maria, how they flesh out the relationship, important values and messaging, which leads to him having a little bit of conflict between Robotniks. Do a good job of making us empathize with Shadow and his motivations, and that's why we love him. Linked to the London incident, still pretty fun to see them try to hack into security. It was a little bit more video game-like, if you know what I mean by that. I do wish to have a reveal where Gunn gets to have their own robots like in the games. It's a little fun and creative, but my one gripe is the scene with Shadow beating Tom. There was a theory that suggests that a potential Wachowski ended up shooting Maria that day.
There's been a Wachowski protecting this town for more than 50 years.
Robotnik could have told Shadow that Tom's dad or grandfather murdered Maria, and I think it would have hit a lot harder. Don't get me wrong though, they did try to take this scene seriously as it is, and they do have their moments, but I feel like it would have hit harder if they just changed that one thing. So I don't like how the soldier just shoots a bomb which kills Maria. Give Shadow another bonus lesson where he learns not to judge people for what their elders have done in the past. A moment where Tails falls somehow, and then Shadow saves him unintentionally, and then immediately groups up with Robotnik, would make his doubt even more strong. You like the outer shell of the Ark. I wish it was big like that in the inside too, and I wish you saw more of the interior. Gerald shows that he's completely lost his humanity and faith in them. Doesn't care about what Maria wants anymore, and he makes excuses. He does broadcast around the whole world, while a depressed Sonic wants to fight Shadow as hard as he can to get back at him for what he did to Tom. He even takes the Chaos Emeralds, but it reminds me of when Ben was trying to kill Kevin in Ultimate Alien Season 1. I would have liked Sonic and Shadow to race together in the Arc system, and then Sonic reveals that he can go Super Saiyan. It's still fun to have Super Sonic show up and fight Shadow already instead. Shadow ends up punching the Chaos Emeralds out of Sonic, and then they both become Super Sonic and Shadow. Kinda clever how the trailer changes the CGI model from Super Shadow to normal Shadow. I appreciate that little detail. They both end up crashing on the moon and talking about their feelings. Shadow realizes that Gerald Robotnik was wrong, so now he thinks it's worth protecting the world, which would clearly be Maria's last wish, and acknowledges what Maria would truly want and values it above what Gerald Robotnik said, and cast what he said away. After all that acceptance and forgiveness, two hedgehogs embrace each other and become Super Saiyans and fight all the robots around the Ark. They destroy the robots and make the iconic poses from the video games. Eggman gets a nice moment of his redemption where he ends up getting rid of his grandfather and chooses to sacrifice himself with Shadow and apologize to Agent Stone, and Shadow fully embraces it. Thus ends The Man Who Shadowed. Rest in peace. Unless if you've seen the post-credits though. Knuckles and Tails save Sonic, Tom is back to full health, and they've acknowledged that Shadow's redeemed himself. And it ends just where the movie begun. I actually like how the movie ended, and especially how it leads into the post-credits scene, with Sonic meeting all the Metal Sonics, and then him getting saved by a hooded girl who turns out to be Amy. And just then, I actually kind of developed a crush on this version already. I note, when I first saw her emerge on the screen, I was imagining the song Dress Code. It was the 1 minute and 13 second mark. I'd like to see how she fits into things, and hopefully we could see a Metal Sonic that does redeem himself like in the OVA movie. As for the fan casting for Amy, I thought about Alyssa Diaz. She was done so dirty in that awful live-action Alien Force. However, live-action actors for Yui and classic Ben did get a second chance in The Legend of Korra and Spider-Man 2 PS5. If they could get second chances in voice acting, so could she. And I think she could do a great Amy Rose. And for my final thoughts, I do think the story and characters are a 9 out of 10, visual quality 10 out of 10, writing 9 out of 10, gamer feel 10 out of 10, total 45 out of 50, and review 9.5 out of 10. The movie is very phenomenal and perfect and deserves more praise than it already has. It does annoy me a little that some countries are being blocked from watching this movie because of Disney and how Disney tries to get people to not watch it, and especially the Oscars not giving it one when it clearly should have won it. And it's sad to see that Japan does betray it just a little when they clearly should be celebrating. This is what happens when you listen to the fans. It ends up being such a massive hit, and that's why it surpassed Mufasa.
Yeah, I think I am a son of Poseidon.
And thanks for watching this new review. Be sure to subscribe, share, like, and comment. Thanks, everyone.